you would prefer me on your team, then have to fight against me because behind me comes the culture.
Yeah,
Which is powerful, boy.
Ooh. Hey, you know we used that for the beginning. You already know, chop. You about to chop that up.
And let me say one more thing.
Go ahead. No. Welcome to the show. Here to give you knowledge that you didn't know. Put you on some game, now you got a buzz. You are now listening to Cannabruhz. Yo, you already know what it is.
Yes, sir.
Man, we back. I said we back. Oh, we back. I said we back. I said we back. You tuned in. You tuned in. Yeah, man. Welcome back to another episode of the Cannabruhz podcast. I am Jerell.
And I'm Corey.
And we are the Cannabruhz. Yep. Well, you know what we try to do? We try to provide our version of edutainment, educating and entertaining the masses, letting you guys in on what you need to know when it comes to the cannabis industry, ownership within the cannabis industry, and everything else. If you're an owner, this is the podcast that's going to be able to help you navigate your way through that ownership sector and allow your business to actually succeed using the correct tools and resources that we just happen to suggest and recommend, right? Also, if you're just a cannabis enthusiast, you're going to love this podcast simply because we do this for you. You know, if the owners are, you know, in a good spirit and they're providing you with great product and services and whatnot, it's going to trickle right down to you. And who knows, it may even spark something in your mind to get involved yourself, right? So continue being an enthusiast. On behalf of the entire cannabis industry, we appreciate you. And on behalf of the financial service industry, we thank all of the owners, the ganjapreneurs out there. And as always, to the Cannabruhz people, what's up? We back. We got you covered. Don't you worry about nothing.
Not a thing.
Yep. Before we get started, man, you know what we got to do. We're going to go ahead and tell you that this episode of the Cannabruhz podcast is sponsored by Harvest Accounting Firm, the #1 cannabis accounting firm in the state of Texas that's covering everything you guys need to know when it comes to the services to keep you compliant and keep you ready for that eventual IRS audit. Okay. So the services do include what, Corey? What do we do?
We got bookkeeping.
What else?
We got accounting.
What else?
We got tax services.
What else?
We got tax planning.
Come on.
And any other thing that you need that requires any type of financial assistance, we can help you with that. If you're trying to build a pitch deck, if you're trying to
let's go
start your entities, you're trying to do all that, we can assist you. And we help everybody in the U.S.
That's a fact.
The state of Texas.
Not just the state of Texas.
Reach out. We got your back.
Yep, absolutely, man. Y'all already know what it is. You can reach us, and we will make sure the link is provided for you in the description below. That's calendly.com/harvestaf/strategy session. So you can book a free 15-minute strategy session with us so we can assess the needs of your business and go ahead and get started on getting you where you need to be, man. Yep. So back to it, man. Another week, you know, more blessings and everything else is going on. Corey, you feeling all right, bro?
Man, as usual, I'm feeling amazing. Just a great day, great time to be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm just excited and blessed to be a part of this amazing organization called the Cannabruhz.
That's right. Hello. Yeah, man. I gotta, pretty much repeat the same thing, man. I feel you. I ain't gotta repeat it, man. I feel you. The dopest thing, man, Corey and I were just kind of speaking about is we understand like the buzz growing and everything around the show and the podcast, the brand as a whole. And we're like super appreciative because we realize that we get to speak to the masses about something that we're passionate in, and a lot of people can't say that. A lot of people hate their jobs that they go to, and for
Mhm.
us, this becomes it. Though on one end, it helps Harvest Accounting Firm and the entity that is Harvest Accounting Firm, but it truly speaks to our hearts and it speaks to who we are as people. It's deeper than just services, and this is our way of being able to help people get to the level that they want to be on. We talk about that all the time, man. And so we hope that anything that we share with you on the Cannabruhz podcast is not only entertaining, but it's something that you can truly take and implement in your real life, in your real situation, man. We have no hesitation when it comes to helping people and just being there for you, man. We the Cannabruhz, you know what I'm saying? It's about the community, it's about togetherness, it's about spreading love and peace and advancement and developing for all of our people. We always say hashtag more black and brown faces and green spaces, and we really mean that,
We mean that
man. So
in our
yeah, man,
souls.
in our souls. It's just what it is, man. That's just really who we are, all genuine spirit. Now, let's go ahead and get started with the show today. All right. In the first segment, as you guys know, if you listen to the Cannabruhz podcast, the first segment of the day is the word on the street. All right. And Corey, what are we talking about for word on the street today?
So today we're gonna take it to Oklahoma,
All right.
aka
Smokelahoma.
Smokelahoma.
Right, right.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So as we all know, Oklahoma has medical marijuana.
Yep.
It's legal there as long as you have a medical marijuana card. There's dispensaries all over the place. And as if you check out our interview with the Felina Rivera, uh, they have the lowest what's the term I'm looking for? The lowest barrier of entry to get
You're right.
into their industry. Therefore, I mean, if you can afford it, then you should be in that. No, let me not say that. But
No, you're right. No, but it's a green mine. I mean, you at least have the opportunity. The doors of opportunity are open out there in Oklahoma. That you can say, right?
yep,
Yeah,
yep, we
yeah.
can exactly. So even though medical marijuana is legal, they still have a huge black market.
Yeah.
And the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics just made a major bust on Tuesday.
Mm.
And it was a huge, large scale marijuana operation in southern Oklahoma. And
How
it was a
big?
huge ring that, matter of fact, it wasn't just in southern Oklahoma, but it stretched from southern Oklahoma all the way through California,
Mm.
North Carolina,
Mm.
Missouri, Indiana, and Texas.
Oh man,
And guess how much they seized from this operation?
how much?
Half a billion.
Young nigga, move that door. Young, move that door.
Half a
Boy,
billion.
boy, boy.
They says they seized over 100,000 marijuana plants and over 200,000 pounds
Mm.
of processed marijuana.
Man.
And they said that the seizure is worth more than half a billion. That's over $500 million.
Mm-mm-mm. Man,
Crazy.
Man, that's crazy, man. That like, I mean, busts happen all the time. They say this is the biggest one in Oklahoma history, right?
Oklahoma history, man. They about to be posing with this bus like it's Pablo Escobar and the cartels.
Right. Boy, they ain't even gonna check that evidence into the locker, right? Like they gonna leave that just in the field. Just the way I saw the article, just leave it in the field just so they can go take pictures with it.
Yeah.
It's a museum now. You know,
They got their rifles pointed up to the sky. Out there posing.
got everybody just lined up, and they say they still looking for individuals. They said at this time that we're recording this episode,
Yeah.
it's people that they believe have already fled the country. Which who would not?
Right,
You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
if you ain't catch me, buddy, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ain't catch me, I'm out of here. Because that much product, that much weight, most likely it's not just one person. It's going to be multiple people responsible, and you can't catch them all at once. No, not that we're advocating being on the run or anything, but it's like of course that would happen. That's a very likely,
probability
way that will play out that way. Exactly. Yeah,
and,
man.
You know, we talk about cannabis a lot. You know, we talk about hemp, marijuana, CBD, all the above.
Mm-hmm.
We are not pro black market cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
We are pro legalized, whether it be state legalized cannabis or medical marijuana, hemp. Because at the end of the day, the black market takes away from all the people trying to do it right.
Right.
The people that are trying to get into the game, how you compete with, Jim that's slanging eighths on the low.
Go Jim again. That damn Jim again.
Jim tearing the block up, man. At least, at least we support the cannabis retailer, but we don't support the cannabis dealer on the corner. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So the line, and I really want to make sure I go in with that a little bit too. Like the focus is on legislation supporting the cannabis industry as a whole, right? If legislation would get behind legalizing, there will be less of these busts like this one, right? And I'm sorry, come on, talk about it loud, a little bit louder.
And decriminalizing.
Come on. You got to do it. You got to do both. We already talked to y'all about this. Go ahead and rewind the tape. You already know what it is. But I'm just saying that that's the focus. So we're not law enforcement. I'm not here to demonize anybody that's on the street doing their thing. But at the same time, some of this stuff is forced. We talk about this. We talked about this in. We talked about how the war on drugs draws a fine line, and you either stand on the left or you stand on the right. And based on your needs, your situation, opportunities that you have or do not have, you stand on one side or the other, and if you stand in the middle, you're probably getting busted soon. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, the ultimate thing is not about demonizing those individuals with the entrepreneurial spirit, those street pharmacists necessarily, but it is about changing the laws so that it's not illegal. What they're doing is not illegal, so that those individuals then have the honest opportunity to either own businesses within the cannabis industry, right? Or take up jobs within the cannabis industry, and they're not so marginalized due to their criminal or arrest records, right? They're not due to their felonies that may be on their record and all that kind of stuff. They're not just pigeonholed to, well, I don't have opportunities and now I'm going to make a bad decision or I'm going to get back on the street or whatever. So the focus is always on fair and just legalization and decriminalization of cannabis as a whole. Like, stop demonizing the plant. It's not about the people. Stop demonizing the plant so the people can have better options out there, and they don't feel as though they're cornered in. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this question though.
What's up?
So, and I agree with what you said to an extent,
Right, right,
for
right.
the fact that Oklahoma's barrier to entry is so low. So if
Hmm.
you have $500 million worth of cannabis, right?
Hmm.
Now again, it's not, I'm not saying that the cannabis piece is bad. I'm saying that the method they went to selling that cannabis is bad, because if they, it said they had, it was 80 acres worth of cannabis, of a grow, illegal grow happening right now. We've already we've talked about in our episode with Felina Rivera,
Yeah,
um it's about $2,500 for a license for in I think a grow license in Oklahoma.
yep, yep.
If you have $500 million worth of plants right there, you can afford that amount.
Yeah, oh
You're
yeah,
you're,
yeah.
you're
I ain't
choosing,
gonna, I ain't gonna cut you off. I know what you're saying. They're choosing to do to do that. Excuse me.
yeah,
They're choosing to do that. Go on. No. Before I cut you off, go on because I do want you to get that full thought out.
yeah, they're choosing. Like I get in California, the barrier to entry is high. Like
Hmm.
the cost of entry, that's what I meant to say. The cost of entry is extremely high. So I
Got
get
you.
why
Right,
California has a higher black market
right,
versus
right.
Oklahoma, where the cost of entry is the lowest in the entire nation, right?
Hmm.
And the fact that their main operation was based out of Oklahoma, and
Mm,
and Felina was telling us like that's one of the big things that's impacting the legalization of cannabis in Oklahoma is the black market,
right, right.
um, and we're talking about the funding piece and funding. And when the police and cannabis a lot of times are deemed on the opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to like drugs and the alphabet boys and 12 and
Yeah, yeah.
insert
Police slang here.
police slang here. Thank you, insert police slang here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like if we're pushing for social equity and to reverse the impact of the war on drugs and disadvantaged, what's,
Disproportionately affected communities. Those DACs.
I
Yo,
can't.
no.
I'm gonna stop saying Dak, man. I can't. If we ain't talking Cowboys football, I can't say Dak because I just it just doesn't roll off the tongue for me. But
Yeah, yeah.
for low income Black and brown areas,
Mhm.
we're working to get them in the fight where they can make legal money. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right, right, right.
That's it. And if we're not helping them get into the fight to make legal money and take
Yeah.
away, the illegal competition so that they can, you know, um, benefit, then I mean it's hurting the cause.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, because we're all looking for a better day in the cannabis industry. Like, we're looking for a day where cannabis is legal. Like, I mean, ultimately, I'm not talking about the stages that we talk about so much
Mhm,
because I know we're like, oh, don't legalize federally until you've gotten it correct and worked it out, possibly on a state level to influence the federal level, whatever. I'm
mhm,
fast forwarding to the future as far as just saying we're the happy day of cannabis, right? In the future, when it's all good, cannabis is just another resource. It's just another textile, all the different ways that you could use cannabis. The usefulness is maxed out, right? Like,
mhm,
everything. Everybody just welcomes cannabis in to the point that it's not even cool to be a rebel associated with cannabis. It's just life. You get what
mhm,
I'm saying? So with that, you do have to, like, there's different sections of it, different, like, right. So you talk about the decriminalization part, right, and
mhm,
getting that together. You do have to handle the illegal side of
mhm,
cannabis. The legal, you got to handle the legislation, you got to handle, so all parts have to be regulated, right? And part of regulating that is these busts. I mean, sad to say, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't want to hear us talk about that. They don't want to hear that. But at the end of the day, we can't be on this podcast talking about, yeah, fighting for the business owners and they're losing money and the investments aren't good and the investors in bad investment situations, all this kind of stuff that we talk about fighting for the entrepreneurs. And at the same time, we dare to utter, oh, it's okay to be on the street selling dope. Like, nah, what we trying to do is, my thing was to, I champion a what do you call it? Rehabilitation story. A jump back, the kickback, right? When you get back to that point, maybe you've been in the streets, maybe you did your time, you served your time and everything, paid your debt to society, and you decided, like Chris Ball of Ball Family Farms, right? Where he did serve his time, got out, took advantage of a program that helped him get licensing and everything, and now that man's flourishing. Right, that's a story that we back.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying?
The real Rick Ross.
The real Rick Ross. Is a lot of individuals like this. So it's almost who we're talking to in this context is to those individuals that are like, no matter what, don't care about the laws being in my favor or not. You can't compare yourself to somebody in Texas, where it ain't legalized damn near at all. You know what I'm saying? Or like, other states or whatever, where they haven't legalized medically or recreationally. You can't compare yourself to them, and you interstate trafficking. You doing all, like, it wasn't even just Oklahoma. They were trying to run the globe with it. So you're right, though. I mean, that's the part. I'm glad you clarify that and plant our flag where we stand on it, because if you continue, you've been busted, you have multiple offenses and everything like that. Once again, I am not 12, but I also am going to say it's kind of insane by definition, isn't it? You get what I'm saying? By definition, that it's quote unquote wrong. And yes, we know it's not necessarily moral ethic, it's the law. So you're going to continue to, throw rocks at the penitentiary. You'll continue to throw rocks at the penitentiary for your way of life. Not even about the bread. When you can go elsewhere, do it legally, right? Yes, you're going to have to deal with some red tape. There's going to be some BS, but why continue doing it when, if you love the flower, we love the flower too. We understand we advocate for it. But if you love it, do it the right way where nobody could stop you. Right. Take down some of the obstacles, bro. Right. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's your like? Why are you continue, like I said, to throw rocks at the penitentiary and take chances like you don't have kids and family and people that depend on you? Make better decisions, bro. Grow up.
Right.
Grow up.
And that's a perfect transition to our next plug talk.
Word on the street.
That's a perfect transition to our next word on the street.
Yeah.
New York is giving the first retail licenses to those who have directly received marijuana convictions or convictions for marijuana, and or have relatives that have been convicted of marijuana. Now, this is part of their social equity, giving back to those who have been impacted the most by the war on drugs. And so Governor Kathy Hochul on Thursday is part of a concerted push to assure that early business owners in the state's projected billion-dollar marijuana industry will be members of communities that have been affected by the nation's decades-long war on drugs.
That's great, because whenever you have efforts focused on righting the wrong, and clearly, our mini-series about social equity is 100% focused on that. So any effort, we're going to applaud the initial effort. Now, the same questions that we bring up throughout this mini-series and throughout the Cannabruhz podcast are still posed in context to this story here. It's like, well, how are you regulating? right? Are you taking care of everybody, providing resources that would help these people not only get licensing, and the next stage would be to open up the businesses, but even after that, are you providing the types of resources, quality, high quality resources to ensure some level of success for these individuals and
Right.
these collectives that are opening these new businesses, because that's one thing I do, and I think we speak on this, but it's important that the success part does happen. I'm not saying you can just make an individual successful. It's just they're just automatically going to succeed, but it is important that we don't just, oh well, you should be ready and throw them to the wolves. It's a
Hmm.
certain type of nurturing that
Hmm.
must go on because the business itself is new. The industry is still learning, right? Government agencies are still learning at state and, of course, the federal level. And it's very important that we actually provide some kind of like assistance to these individuals, um, to these individuals that are hopeful, where these entrepreneurs that are trying to just make a way and state their claim, to the game and give their family generational wealth possibly, and provide their communities with opportunity. If you really believe that, that's dope. But if not, this is going to help the other side of the argument. Oh man, we gave them opportunity. They just
Hmm.
didn't take advantage of it. You know, and that's what we don't want to hear, man. So,
Right.
it's
And
great to hear about this, and we've actually spoken on New York before with their $200 million adult use cannabis, their adult use cannabis business fund that
right.
they established.
Right.
So yeah,
And New York, they say that Black and Latino residents have for years been far more likely to be arrested on marijuana charges than white
come
non-Hispanic
on,
people.
come on,
Mr. Alexander said he expected between 100 and 200 licenses to go to people who were convicted of a marijuana-related offense before the drug was legalized, or those who have a parent, guardian, child, spouse, or dependent with a marijuana conviction.
it's a lot of people.
And they're thinking that the resulting dispensaries will be the first to open in the state by the end of the year, 2022.
Dope.
Though some others may say that it may open shortly after or early in 2023.
Mhm.
So uh, it's on the horizon, whether it be in the next 9 to 12 months from now. Um, you got to start prepping for that and
Yeah,
preparing yourself and getting your funds together. I'm not sure how much it'll cost for the license, if it will cost. Um, I'm sure it will cost, but I'm not sure what the cost will be. But you got to start preparing yourself now, if you're looking to apply for one of these licenses, so you can uh, compete
yeah.
to your best to the best of your ability once you have that opportunity.
Yeah, we've spoken to business owners before, clients and prospects alike, who have expressed that the process itself, outside of the licensing, does take some time. One that I'm thinking that's coming to mind right now is they mentioned 12 to 18 months. You got
Right.
to think about the flower calendar, especially if you're talking about dispensaries and or grows or vertically integrated companies, and so it does. It's not instant. It does take time, and it's a process. So when we talk about these programs that are helping with the licensing process, that's such the big part of these social equity programs. But of course, it's not the only thing that they need help with. The licensing
Hmm.
is the barrier, the
Beginning.
entry Corey talks
Yeah.
about, right? That's the barrier, the entry into the game. Because of course, you got to be legal to be able to even have land or have a business open before you even get to the part of setting up your operation, hiring, you know what I'm saying? All the different processes that go on after that into your quote unquote success.
Hmm.
So, we just, it's just like this one part though is the hurdle, the big hurdle that is hurtful and so far has been used to keep people out of the industry and keep the industry underdeveloped to some extent.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, man. That's crazy, but I'm glad you kind of brought that up as far as word on the street is concerned, because that is a perfect segue into today's version of Put You On Game. And as you know, this Put You On Game is a continuation of our mini series centered around social equity. So today, we about to put you on game. Yeah, man. More specifically today, we're going to be speaking on fostering diversity in the cannabis workforce along with social health, and how the two actually play a part together. Yeah. Um, so I know one thing as far as diversity is concerned is you kind of spoke about it in the word on the street, but when we say diversity, what's the first thing you think of? Just instantly in your mind. As soon as I say diversity, what's the first thing you think of?
Black and white.
Right. You think of color, right? But it's not only about our ethnicity, right? Or how we look on the outside. It's also about your life experiences. You know what I mean? We mentioned before, like I said, about your experiences and decisions, and that you've made in your past life, those convictions, the criminal or arrest records, or it might not even be yours, right? That may be your parents, or or your legal guardian or whatever. So then what happens, and there's consequences and things that happen after that point,
Mhm.
of either incarceration or simply that negative hit to a person's record. So those life experiences are something that separates people that have them and people that have not had them. And when it comes to life experiences, those second chance citizens, or those individuals with criminal or arrest records, is something. There are people that should be considered when you're trying to right the wrong, when it comes to diversity within this whole social equity puzzle. And of course, like we said, the family of those incarcerated or formerly incarcerated people. So yeah, man, I just wanted to make sure that it's the only diversity that's spoken about is not just ethnicity or race. It gets even deeper than that. Like there's
Right.
actually subcategories within that as well.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
But yeah, we kind of tapped on it a little bit, or touched on it a little bit in our last episode. But when it comes to diversity, the biggest thing is, or one of the big things is ensuring that there's inclusion when it comes to not only the people who own the licenses,
Hmm.
but also the people who are working within those businesses.
Absolutely.
And I don't think the people working in the businesses are talked about a lot. Most of the time, the focus is solely on the license holders.
So
But
true.
as we've noted, specifically in the Black community, is less than 4% owners that or 4% that are owners of a um, marijuana or cannabis business,
Hmm.
um, across the nation. State by state, of course.
Big facts.
Um, and so typically, when it comes to your staff, when it comes to um, people that you surround yourself with, you're more often, and I don't have the facts to back this up, but you're in my opinion, you're more often to hire those that make you feel more comfortable, to make the that you're used to being around, right? And so, when you look at a lot of the ownership of the cannabis industry, it's predominantly, you know, white. It's
Yeah, not
predominantly
non
white,
people of color. Yeah.
and it's predominantly white males.
Facts.
And so, um, you're going to see a lot more white males in the industry than you see, in my opinion, of everyone else. Um, Not to say that there aren't businesses that hire minorities, but the representation of minorities proportionately throughout the industry is extremely low.
Yep.
So, minorities will typically hire minorities, just to make sure, like, hey, I'm going to put my brother on because there's not a lot of possibilities, there's not a lot of opportunities for him or her within this industry. So I'm going to provide those resources.
Yep.
But you know, we also want that diversity to be spread upon our colleagues in life, right? We want to
Yep.
make sure that they are including, black and brown faces within their green spaces, right? We want to
Right.
we
Right.
want to make sure that they're including everybody.
Right.
And uh I mean, what are some ways that we can do that? What do you think,
Yeah.
Jerell?
So, I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's the question right there, man. Is it enough to just assume that if you help those people from those decks with the licensing barrier, like if you help them get into the game, you help them with resources and whatnot, is it enough to provide that licensing to those people who you, like you said, and most of us probably believe that those people who will employ other people similar to them, right? I think we may have a solution to that though, right?
Okay.
And it may come in the form of just strongly encouraging, or as we would say in the business or legislative world, incentivizing, right?
Okay.
Incentivizing equity plans and also being able to prove that, we talked about that before. I think you and I maybe offline about, you know, it have to be there has to be a way of holding them accountable, I guess, through their business plans. In fact, I think that may have been in our conversation with Felina Rivera. But there has to be a way to hold those people accountable, whether it's, hey, you put this in your business plan. So if you said social equity in your business plan, this is the threshold. Needs to be like an agreed upon uh, level of, like, this
Mhm.
percentage of your employees need to be people from DAX or whatever, right? But the solution is in strongly encouraging or incentivizing equity plans and proof of those equity plans within business plans for social equity program applicants, businesses, along with all the others. So that's one thing. So Corey, and this on a personal level, right? So you and I have to, and this is any person of color who's for this movement or whatever like that. So, do we believe, honestly, that every person who you allow to uh, entry, right, or you help get entry into um, entrepreneurship, right,
Mhm.
that they will automatically hire other minorities or people from disproportionately affected communities? Do you believe that? Can we
And
say that 100%?
and I want to clarify that question before I answer that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So, are minorities going to hire minorities?
Are you're right. Well, are DAX, to be specific, going to
Okay, right,
hire, right? Or,
right,
or you both. I would like the answer
right,
to both, right?
right.
Because
I
that's not the
I
same.
I think yes. I think the probability that if I come from a uh, DAC, right?
Right, right.
I come from a low income area that's been ravaged by the community, right?
Okay.
When if you look at, and we're just going to use historical data, if you look at anybody that's made it out of a low income area, what is one of the first? What is this is gonna be interesting to hear what you say. What is one of the first few things that they do
I
when
gotta
they
put my
come to
dog
home?
on. I gotta put my dog on. I
I gotta
gotta
put my dog on. I gotta get my mama taken care of.
I gotta put on for my hood. I gotta put on for my people.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that's and that but that's always the mindset is I gotta put my team that's been rocking with, I gotta put my homies on. I
Yeah.
gotta I gotta put, those that have been around me, I gotta put them on. And I think that mindset, in my opinion, doesn't change Matter of fact, I think it intensifies once you're in the cannabis industry because you're like, bro,
Okay.
I
Right,
can
right.
legally sell weed
With my homies.
with my homies. Like,
Right,
it
right,
don't get no better than that.
right. Yeah, but now, no, now here's my, I got a challenge. I got to play
Okay,
devil's advocate a little
okay,
bit.
okay.
What percentage of minority or DAC people, right?
Mhm.
People from DAC are doing that. And I asked, and the only reason I ask you that, and I know you say, it's high, right? Okay, cool, high. The reason I asked you for a specific percentage, right? Because two things. One, we already know, and this is keeping it a buck on the Cannabruhz today.
Okay.
Look, we already know that at times, and I'm gonna say black folks, but I really mean people of color. Black folks do look at non-people of color, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to try to
Our
draw
colleagues
that
in life.
colleagues in life. Yeah. They do look at our colleagues in life as being more knowledgeable. You got to remember this. There's a lot of issues. I mean, we talk about the social equity part. We're talking about the upliftment of minorities and black people, right? To fairness, so that we can then talk about this whole social equality thing.
Mhm.
But it's like, to be honest, to keep it a buck, we do look at non-people of color and literally assume, even if it's subconsciously, even you can't
Mhm.
even say this out your mouth because you know you'll be shunned in the hood.
Mhm.
You assume that person knows better. You got two applicants. They basically are the same, right? But one may come in dressed like me today,
Mhm.
Mavs jersey, no,
Mhm.
little something underneath, something, no, what's
Mhm.
going on? Little cap tattooed up. Other guy comes out, button up, blazer,
Mhm.
nice car. You get what I'm saying? Whatever, right? His presentation overall is different, and most importantly, he's white, right?
So is the other guy black?
Yeah, the other guy's black. The one that's
Okay.
dressed like me. Yeah, yeah, he's a
Okay.
black guy, right? And I'm just saying the reason I'm challenging, my challenging question is coming from that energy right there, because it's like that's the truth, bro. Not all people are like, if he comes, the guy with the nice car and the good presentation, quote unquote, whatever, comes in and he talks about all his experience in the cannabis industry. Hey, by the way, he's capping. There's no way for you to actually prove this, or you know what I'm saying? You know how it is in interviews. People be listing their best friends as their former
Yeah.
bosses, right? But he comes in and you don't, just your whole process isn't that thorough as far as checking it, either one of them checking it. But all of a sudden he gets that opportunity is what I'm trying to hint at. You get what I'm saying? He gets that opportunity because you go, not because he feels comfortable. Some people from DAC will say the homie feels comfortable. I want to provide opportunity as well. He
Mhm.
needs this, so on and so forth. But others will say, I'm trusting the other guy because he seems like he could be a better asset to my company and the growth of my company. I'm just trying to keep it real on that end because there is an element of that. So there's that part. And
Mhm.
that's why I, for the most part, was asking you that question, because I'm like, the other second part I want to say is, the reason I'm asking you is, I'm sorry, answer the question first. What
Okay.
percentage? What
Okay.
percentage?
So I gotta ask you a question before I can answer that question.
Clarify. Let's
Right?
go.
Are you asking are they hiring all minorities within their
What
business, or are
what
they?
are 100% of these people from DAC who now
Mhm.
have licenses and businesses
Mhm.
hiring 100% of minorities
Okay.
and people from
So
DAC?
okay. Then I'm gonna say
What's the percentage?
15%. I'm gonna say 15. I'm gonna say a low percentage. One because at the end of the day, so back to my original thing, you're gonna put your homies on, right? But your homies aren't experts in what you're doing, right?
Right.
So that's the beauty of diversity, right?
Mhm.
you don't always want people that look like you. You don't always want, you don't want all males. You don't want all females. You don't want all black people. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want all white people. You want people from a diverse background working within your company because they bring different skill sets, different experiences,
Mm-hmm.
different thought processes, so on and so forth. So I would hope that it's 15%, or even I hope it's 0%. I don't think any business, in my opinion, should be all one ethnicity, all one background, because you want to set yourself up for success. I mean, you want people with you want qualified people over um people that fits the look you want, or it makes you feel comfortable overall, right?
Right.
You
Now, before you, I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
okay.
have to cut
Yeah,
you off
yeah,
because I
cut
don't
me
want you
off,
to.
cut me
I
off.
don't
Yeah.
want you to dig a hole. I am also. I want to go back and reiterate the fact that they have the same qualifications. In my example, the only difference was in their presentation and their skin color.
Oh,
So,
okay.
right. So,
Okay.
so, so,
Okay, okay,
so
okay.
the big part of that is because many times that's what I'm saying that does happen. How many times have people of color been looked over for a job opportunity
Mhm,
simply
mhm.
because they were up against the great white hope or whatever? I'm just
Okay.
saying, like, how
So
often does that happen?
so and I
I'm not talking about the homies like
yeah,
I grew up with him.
right,
I'm
right,
just
right,
saying
right,
that's
right,
another person of
right,
color. Yeah.
right, right, right. This is the thing. And that's a great point that you put on. Um, so based off of appearance, one looks more credible than the other because they're dressed more in business attire versus street attire, right? At the same time, it there's a lot of different factors that go into it, because like a part of me is like, well, we all know that you dress for the part that you want, right? So if and typically, I mean, no, it really doesn't need to be said. Like, I mean, unless you don't have the attire, and yeah, unless you don't have the attire, then I mean, why would you go into an interview? And I've seen it. I've seen it. People come into interviews wearing any and all sorts of things, and I get it. But it's like, how seriously are you taking this at the same time, right? That's off of first impression. Like, how
Mhm.
serious are you taking this? But then, of course, during the interview, what will it's like anybody. It's like, then you got personality. Then you have, what I'm saying? Like, you look a certain way, but okay, let me hear you out. Let me talk with you. Let me get to know you. Let me see your experiences and everything like that. So now, okay, let's go back to your original question and what percentage.
What percentage
Uh,
of DAX are they hiring?
I'm gonna go 65%.
Okay. Now I'm gonna stop you right there. 65%. How much is the ownership that minorities have in the industry as a whole?
4%. Less than 4%. Well,
Okay.
no, wait, no, that's just
That's
black.
black
That's
people.
black.
That's black. But
Yeah.
people of color is 10, right? It's like 10.
We can go with 10. We can rock with
Okay.
10.
But
It's a low number. It's a
that's
low number.
that's an answer that I knew from research, but
Yeah.
it's 10.
Okay.
So let's say it's at its highest. So let's not just leave black people by themselves. We're gonna do all people of color.
Okay.
10%.
Okay.
10% of a total industry, and you're hiring 65% black people. Overall now, what's the percentage? Is it a high or low percentage of the people that are people of color, or specifically individuals from DAX who are employed in the cannabis industry?
It's a lower percentage.
That is my point. You see what I'm saying? That is my point. It's not about right or wrong. And I, Corey, I appreciate you, bro. Just it just being able to help me paint that picture
Yeah.
for the people,
Yeah.
because that's what I'm talking about, man. Look, That's it. I get it, Corey. You're right on one thing, and that's my business partner, y'all. So of course we see here. Yes, I would not intentionally want all one color. Like,
Right.
I'm not hiring you for your color. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Right
Right.
now, am I going to allow applications? Am I probably going to accept more applications from minorities than maybe somebody else who's not in favor of minorities? And I'm not saying white people. I'm saying people who don't favor minorities. You can call it racist, bigot, whatever you want to call it, right? Like people who, I'm just saying, somebody who has a bias,
Mhm.
Yes, I'm more likely to take more application. I'm not going to disqualify you because you're black, is what I'm saying. So technically, I've looked at more applications on a serious level than maybe somebody who has bias, because I don't
How
hire
you know they
off
black
of
though?
bias, huh?
How you know they black? You going off names?
No, you know how it is. Today's day and age, you look at LinkedIn, Facebook, you see a person come and apply.
Okay, you talking about research.
We're
Okay.
talking about, yeah, this
I just
2022.
want to clarify that because I'm saying if you just solely looking at the application and
Nah.
how you know I don't know I don't know too many
Don't do it.
I don't know too many tailors. I mean I don't know if Taylor would be a
See,
good
that's not
word.
that bad. That's not that
Yeah,
bad.
Taylor's
See,
not
but
that bad.
that's what I'm saying.
I don't know too many black Hudsons. Denied.
Hudson. Yeah. All right. No, I feel, I just, do your research.
Yeah,
I'm talking about a real
yeah,
general manager,
yeah,
or of course a business owner who's
yeah.
in charge of hiring. You're I'm not looking, if I'm in that position, I'm not looking at them because of the color. It's not the
Mhm,
color that I'm intentionally trying to, like, higher. You get what I'm
mhm,
saying? But when I see the color, once we get to that part, I looked on your LinkedIn. Once I see the color, I'm not disqualifying. So yes, I'm going to take more applications from people of color, whatever.
mhm,
But I am not trying to intentionally hire all people of color, because that diversity is important, right?
mhm,
Because I'm under the belief that 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 Martin Luther King stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, we really do need to all be together, right?
mhm,
And my company, being black owned, does say speak on something in representation of the black community, in
mhm,
representation of people of color. You get what I'm saying? So I do
mhm,
not have to have a all black staff, right? I'm willing to work with everybody, because that's what I'm trying to influence. I'm trying to influence the other 90% of cannabis business owners that are not people of color, to hire the best candidates. Look at my success. We have a diverse environment. We have
mhm,
the best of the best from all over, because we did not filter out based on race, ethnicity, and the communities in which they grew up in. You get what I'm saying? So I use that giant picture, the paint picture we just painted for them. I
mhm.
know I was like the guy dressed like me and everything like that. It was about, I was trying to use extremes.
Right,
It
right,
was about
right.
extremes, the differences between two people, not their professional background, not their capabilities or their skill set, just simply how they're looked at. Because when it comes to diversity in the workforce, this is what we're talking about. It's different types of diversity, different um, categories, whether it be by your life experiences, whether it be by your ethnicity, whether it be by your actual zip code, your geographic, where you from, what we believe, right?
So
That's just part of it.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So how do you pose that non-people of color, how do you propose that they hire more diverse people?
Well, part of my solution, man, is, to be honest, it's affirmative action policies. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
I
okay.
it's just what I believe. I can sit back as a lawmaker, gatekeeper, state or federal level government official, and I can assume let's say I'm one guy that has, it's really not how it works, but let's just assume I'm one guy that has to say so, right? It's more about committees and boards and anyways, but I can assume that they're going to do the right thing. I can assume that the marketing and the Cannabruhz podcast really worked on them. You get what I'm saying? But or I can force it. Like I said it earlier. Part of my solution was, hey, we can incentivize, right? Whether it be, assistance, extra funding. First of all, nobody's turning down assistance. I don't care if you're making good money. If they say, here's a tax break, or here's some grants,
Mm-hmm.
for companies who do meet the threshold of diversity hires or whatever like that. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people of color do not want to hear that they were hired based on a quota being met.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, the industry as a whole does benefit in ways. The industry as a whole does benefit from incentivizing. And not
Mm-hmm.
just cannabis industry, all, just hiring in general in the workplace does benefit from um, forcing the issue. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes they're not going to hire. They're not going to take a look at those applications. You got to get it in there. So, when it comes to affirmative action policies, I think that could be a solution to getting the job done. And the job done meaning allowing better opportunities, more opportunities.
And see, that's a tough call. I am on the fence when it comes to affirmative action.
Why's that?
Um, I think I do think that there should be diversity throughout the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I do think all. I mean, it's just like I would prefer for it to be more natural than forced because it opens up. Like if I'm hired, if you're forced to hire me, right, and you think that there's better people out there that could serve this position than myself, but you only hired me because you were incentivized or you had to, that it just opens up the can of, ostracism. It opens up the can of only hired your black ass because only hired your black ass because uh, I got a grant. You know what I'm saying? And it's like and 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 I agree with you. Like at the end of the day, diversity needs to be throughout the industry. But at the same time, it's like, is that is that the way to go about it? Because I mean, in a sense, forcing forcing people to have a social equity plan for their business a type of affirmative action. And that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, like you're forcing all businesses to have some way of inclusion of people that have been impacted, right? If you want it or not, and especially if funds are being directed to enforce your social equity plan, right? Whether it be, part ownership, part, whatever, or whether it be hiring your staff, your staff being a certain makeup of, you know, minorities to include, women, to include double minorities, to include, it's that's one of those, and I don't have the answer for that piece right there. I would like to see if there'd be other ways of creating that diversity throughout, the different states that have legalized, whether it be medical marijuana or recreational use. I'd like to see that there'd be other ways, or people would, at the end of the day, green is what all that matters, right? Green as in money and green as in
Supposed
cannabis.
to
And a lot
be. Yeah.
and a lot of people aren't they could care less about anything other than that, right?
Yeah.
They just want their business to be successful and they want to make as much money as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'd like to see more healthy ways. That's how I would like to say that. I like to see more healthy ways of inclusion of people of color into
Mhm.
the cannabis industry versus forcing them.
Okay. I'm with you, but then there's some that might say, well, how and when? Like it's an undeniable fact that when we talk about the injustices against Black people and people of color in this country,
Mhm.
it's long going.
Mhm.
We've been forced out in the most nonchalant, passive ways. It's not always a strong fight.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you don't. What I'm talking about is allowing the opportunity, more opportunities to even be interviewed. Look at what the NFL is going through now when they talk about
Mhm.
diversity hires for the head coaching positions and the diversity hire issue crisis that they're facing when it comes to ownership of these teams within the
Mhm.
organization as a whole. Like the thing is, the NFL has a thing where it's and I'm paraphrasing it, but it's basically where you have to interview a certain amount of people, right? The Brian Flores situation, right?
Mhm.
The thing behind that was he's like Bill Belichick sent him a text that basically uncovered the fact that he was interviewed after they had already determined who would have the position,
Mhm.
right? And that's messed up. And I
Mhm.
understand from that standpoint how you take that something like that in that context where it's not really helpful to just force them to do things because they're going to get around that somehow or whatever. But then at the same time, what I said the other side might say is, well, then when? You get what I'm saying? I'm waiting for you to just be a good person. Like, because
Right.
I'm gonna tell
Right.
you, hold on, I'm waiting for you to be a good person. That ain't how life works.
Right.
People don't just get better. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? Like schools, I'm gonna tell you if you think about it with segregation in schools, right? Like you got to think about something like that. They didn't just simply choose. Eventually, they desegregated these schools. So now it was based off of where you live. So now it's like, well, Black people do live in this area, right? And
Mhm.
now your kid has to get an education. Now that Black kid, I'm not saying it's physically forced, but that
Mhm.
those Black families had to allow their Black children to go to
Mm.
these schools. The white family said, who some did pull out and go to other schools, but for those families that did just say, "Hey, we've been in this school. All of our kids have gone to this school. That's it is what it is. We don't,
Mhm.
even whether we love them or we're just tolerating them, whatever. But
Mhm.
that had to forcibly happen.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? That had
Right.
to. If they would have just let it happen, you and I would have not gone to school with white folks. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying. Like, my thing is, if I'm speaking from the other side of this argument here, the thing is, time does not. How much time will it take? How much time will it
Well,
take before that can happen? Because I can't just assume you're going to be a good person. This
right.
is the real world. That's not real life.
Right.
I'm just
And
speaking from the other side.
I'm not suggesting that it happened naturally. I'm just suggesting that we as a whole, as cannabis advocates, cannabis um policymakers, so on and so forth,
Mhm.
um find more healthy ways of inclusion
Okay.
versus affirmative action.
Okay.
But
And
with that
that's a
being,
long
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a long conversation right there, and it can't be solved in one episode, and we are not lawmakers, you know.
One thing I will say, and I'm going to take it back to that South Park episode that I was
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah.
If you watch the episode, Randy Marsh hired Tolkien's dad, who I can't remember, the black kid,
Right. Yep.
right? And even though he hired Tolkien's dad and made him a partner and gave him whatever position, he didn't listen to any of the input that Tolkien's dad had.
That's a great
He
point.
didn't take anything that Tolkien's dad had to say serious. He didn't he didn't even acknowledge it. He was like, hey, yeah, 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 whatever, whatever, and did his own thing, right? And the only reason why he took it serious was because Tolkien's dad left and started his own dispensary, started his own grow, his own
Mhm.
cultivation.
Mhm.
And that's when he was like, wait a minute, you're you're my competition now? You're
I
my
gotta eliminate the
competition.
competition.
Well, why are you my competition? He's like, because you didn't listen to me, so now I'm doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now that made him take notice. So going off of that,
I love that bringing up that. Yeah.
maybe that's how you enforce that inclusion.
How?
More minority business or license holders in the area forces you to take notice of
The black existence and the
the
capabilities. Yeah.
and
Of people of color.
you would prefer me on your team than have to fight against me because behind me comes the culture.
Yeah.
That's
Ooh.
which is powerful, boy.
Ooh. Hey, we used that from the beginning. You already know. Chop. You about to chop that up
and
now.
let me say one more
Go
thing.
ahead. Go ahead. No, please. Go
Let me
ahead.
say one more thing. And that's one thing, and I harp it's it's a beautiful thing and it's a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
The black community is the number one consumer in America. We consume more than anybody else. And I think we're like 14% of the population in the US, and we're the number one consumer in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So when I make a statement like behind me comes the black culture, think about that. Think if we all unified and rallied together, and not just the black community, black and brown community, people of color. If we unified and funds and really supported those businesses, that would
Mm-hmm.
force
Yeah.
our colleagues in life to take notice of the impact that minorities have within the cannabis industry. And then again, I'd rather have you with me than against me. And
Okay.
not only have you with me, but have you play a crucial, not a crucial role, but a substantial role. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you actually have input in the business versus me fighting against you and having to try and battle the market space with you. I think that's how we
Right.
can make that happen.
I get that too, and I just want to wrap the diversity conversation up.
Yep.
This is the
Yep.
reason why. No, true. Yeah, it's the reason why both are needed. We need diversity within the workforce, and we're talking about this in this episode
Mhm.
because like Corey
Mhm.
mentioned, it doesn't get spoken about enough. But then we also need more people of color with licenses and businesses. So
Mhm.
it has to be on both because the argument could continue, right? Even after
Mhm.
the point you just made with South Park, which is a great point, I still could say, well, that's just him. That's like that's him, right? Just how we can't assume. I can also come back with the hey, I can't have opportunities from outside. And a lot of times it's like, you understand what I'm saying by that? Like a lot of times there's people how can I even change your mind about my capabilities? Because sometimes you don't have to learn the hard way of me moving next door and competing with you and taking away your customer base. Sometimes you got force, and I know I'm saying force, but that's just the two sides we're speaking on. The affirmative action situation or whatever, the incentivizing of hiring minorities or people of color. Yes, that's the way you were introduced to me because the opportunity wasn't even there before for me to have a sit down or an interview or a meeting with you to show what I'm actually capable of. Well, now I'm in the door and I come in the door and now I've shown you and you're so smart from the business standpoint, it overrides your biases or your prejudices or your system that you came in the door with that morning. You sat down with me and then you go, dude, this dude's a genius. You get what I'm saying? You sit down with the applicant and then you go, that guy's a genius. He could further us. Crazy that I wasn't even going to listen to him at first. Right. And that's why I think in our 2 points that we're talking about, I know we're just kind of making examples on a podcast, but that's where it's kind of like, is the affirmative action in the application process or it's in the hiring. It's like, do I have to hire them or do I just have to have these interviews? And that's why I brought up the NFL and stuff, because there's so many different ways that it could be done. I understand how like forcing somebody to work in your environment is kind of that there's some drawbacks to that you clearly and so eloquently stated. But at the same time, just the opportunities. That's something I kept saying the word opportunities because that's essentially what it's about. Right. And even the opportunities like you speak of where you become a competitor and then you get an opportunity, which some might say swallowed up by. Yeah, now you got rid of the competition. What if that's your ultimate goal? Yeah, you get the benefit as a business, but your ultimate goal is just simply just get rid of it. I'd rather pay you a salary than take the hit that I'm going to take because you are so close to me and serving the same market and demographic as me. So the thing about this is what we're trying to focus on people today is that both are necessary. We just don't feel that the diversity in the workforce conversation is happening enough. And we talk about ownership all the time, even us, and we're guilty of it too a lot of times, because that part right there is what chips away. Corey even brought it back to, well, in South Park, you had to get that ownership. You get what I'm saying? And the ownership at the end of the day is I don't care. And from our opinion, that's a way better. Ownership versus a high paying job or whatever, working with somebody else. If you're a certain type of individual, that's just how you think. I'd rather own something. I know you got a big corporation and we take business ski trips and all this stuff like this and great bonuses at Christmas time, but I'd rather have ownership, than have a job where I don't have any control of my environment outside of the scope of my position. So ultimately, man, we need more diversity, not only with just ownership, but we do need diversity within the workplace to allow opportunities for people of color to advance as a people, with it, whatever way that happens, man. And that's how we rock it, man. Boy.
Hey, you want to have another episode?
Oh, we're gonna have another episode because already. Corey. We here.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, we know we don't want to take up a whole bunch of your time, and we want to make sure that you can fairly digest, in the best, most effectively digest what we're saying. So we cutting it right there. But in the next social equity part of this series, we're going to be talking about social health, and we're going to go in depth there too, because there's a lot of lot of questions and a lot of challenging, oppositions when it comes to allowing cannabis in, and a lot of people tend to use health reasons as a way to deny cannabis the access to the people and the people's access to cannabis. So make sure you come back, tune in and tap in again on the Cannabruhz podcast, to the Cannabruhz podcast. Like, share, subscribe. If you feel what we got going on with this social equity mini series, we got much more coming for you, including that next social health episode and everything that we've spoken about pertaining to reinvesting tax revenue, and everything else that we've spoken about on the podcast, man. And it goes just like that. All right.
And
what's up?
Let me hold up. I think it's that time.
Let me check. Oh, it is that time. It's time. It's time for some plug talk. Hey. So look, man. Look, if you already know how the Cannabruhz kick it, man. In plug talk, what we do is we like to shine a light on some businesses, whether they're emerging from the ground up or they're already in the game, and we just feel that there needs to be even more light shed on them. But we like to give them their flowers while they're here to smell them, smoke them, and whatever else they do with them. All right? Yeah. So today, and Corey, we want to pull this up. You want to go and
Sure.
pull us up?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Private chat link, man. Private chat link. But in today's episode of Plug Talk, before we get started, before we get started on Plug Talk, we're always looking for more businesses that we can support. The Cannabruhz is we're about uplifting the community, right? The advancement of people of color, but also the advancement of our beautiful cannabis community. You know what I'm saying? So we pretty much need you guys to let us know any sorry. Okay. We need you guys to let us know if there are any other cannabis businesses that we should have our eye on so that we can feature them in an upcoming segment for Plug Talk. But today, we are going to get into it, man. We're going to talk about a really dope spot that's called Gorilla RX Wellness, right? Gorilla RX Wellness, they are, and you can, of course, we pulled up their website. That's www.gorillarxwellness.com. You can also visit their IG page. That's at Gorilla RX Wellness. All right. They are actually located in South Central Los Angeles, California, right?
Hey, crafted on Crenshaw. I like that.
Crafted on Crenshaw. That's right on Crenshaw, 4233 South Crenshaw Boulevard in LA, zip code 90008. All right. So before we get started looking at their website and everything, something that you can find out, of course, when it comes to their mission and their journey is that they are owned and operated by a mother-daughter duo, right? The Kikas, right? The Kikas, right? You got Kika Keith and Hakika Kika Housey. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Queen. If I am not, my apologies, but I'm just hope you see my intention in trying to shed the light. With International Women's Day and it being Women's Month at the time of this recording, we could not
pass up the opportunity.
We could not pass up the opportunity. We couldn't go much further along without shining a light on an amazing business like this that's owned by two amazing Black women. They were open in 2021 as the first Black woman-owned dispensary out of the nearly 200 dispensaries that's in LA, in the LA area. All right. You see them right there. That's really dope. You know, they spoke on, we kind of covered the issue with the seller and the social equity up in smoke series that was done by Web Joint. So it's pretty dope, man. Were they in there?
They may have been.
That is dope. You know, it's so crazy because our journey just takes us all around, and then we always seem to find that everything is connected. Everything within the cannabis community is really connected. You just got to find your way back around. But yeah, we definitely checked out the piece that Web Joint did, and it really speaks to the issues going on out there in California. But they doing their thing, Corey. They doing their thing over there at Gorilla RX Wellness, man. Yeah, bro. And even when we talk just, the shop, when we talk them, because everybody know about the products, the story is amazing. But, you got to have that product to back up that story, to that high quality product that keeps people coming back, raises your core clientele. And they got a lot on that, man, that's going to really keep them in business for a long time. They offer an assortment of pre-rolls, edibles, tinctures, concentrates, vape pens, topical ointments, infused beverages, accessories, and much more. Man, it's really dope. Like we said, man, they're on Crenshaw, man. So if you out there in LA or the LA area, make sure you stop by. Salute to these queens, mother-daughter combo. I think that is so dope. I love family-owned businesses. This is what we talk about. Look at the merch. The merch is fire too, bro.
That's
Come
dope.
on. The merch is fire, man. They definitely are a great representation of the culture, man. And I love their website, the way they put this all together. It's great stuff, man. It's great stuff. So y'all support them, man. Y'all make sure y'all support them. As far as the merch, the non-cannabis side of it, we all can support that no matter what state you're in. So go support them now, man. They got that fire when it comes to the merch, man.
You see that? This LA has nearly 200 dispensaries.
I told them.
Only one is owned by Black women.
I told them. First of all, we got to change that, LA. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Everybody keep the foot on their necks. This movement is exactly that. It will move, but we have to keep working. We can need all the Black women, Black brothers out there, and of course, all the people of color to continue pushing. Push for your dreams. Stay passionate. You know what I'm saying? And get that business right, so that you can open up and they won't be the sole Black woman owned dispensary in the area.
Went ahead and pulled up their Instagram just so you can really see what they're working with. Look at this. They double dutching. When's the last time you see someone double dutch? Hold on.
Now they ain't gonna play well for the people, the video, but
you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, but
But I'll tell you what. Shout out to all the double dutchers out there, because I am not coordinated enough.
No can do. I can't go for that. No can do.
Hey, wait, hold on. This is iconic. Look at this.
Let me see.
Whenever it pops up. Hold up. We just gonna rock with this picture.
Oh, right? With the background, come on. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I still want to go to LA just to get that picture right there. I need that.
Right.
We need to take a Cannabruhz trip, man, and maybe go there. Go to go check out Gorilla RX Wellness or something, and podcast from there or something. But man, I hope they have the opportunity to receive and accept these flowers given to them by the Cannabruhz. You already know what they got, Corey. They get that Cannabruhz
stamp of approval.
We talking about the Cannabruhz. So shout out to y'all, man. And it goes just like that, bro. It's just like that. But look, man, we appreciate you guys for checking out another episode of the Cannabruhz podcast. Make sure you stay tuned in, tapped in for whatever we got left for you. And we thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. We're going to go ahead and let you know everything that you need to support. So first off, make sure you go out there and support the movement, support the cannabis industry. As we said, as you heard on the podcast, a big push is to get more Black and brown faces in green spaces. So hashtag more Black and brown faces in green spaces.
Say that.
Hashtag Cannabruhz.
Yep.
Hashtag support the movement.
Hello.
Hashtag seed to success.
You know it.
And hashtag harvest AF. And what's the AF stand for?
A fair and just workforce. Full of diversity, man. That's just how we doing it, man. It's about being fair and just, and that's what we're for.
A fair and just workforce.
Yes,
that's what I'm talking about. Hey, well, again, we appreciate you all tuning in and tapping in to watch the Cannabruhz Social Equity episode 3. It's episode 3, right?
Episode 3.
Hey, y'all, we cranking these out for y'all just so we can make sure that y'all have the word on the street, so we can put y'all in game and so we can plug your businesses. Thank you again for tuning in, and we out.
Hey. Welcome to the show. Here to give you knowledge that you didn't know. Put you on some game, now you got a buzz. You are now listening to Cannabruhz.